Adelante, so she's going to tell us what I got today. Thank you. I'm going to turn my back on some of you. I'll turn back around, so, Councilman. Before I talk about my word, Adelante, or show, where are you, show? Oh, there he is. Show, Nepodia. He's the originator of DreamWeek. This is why we're here. This is why we're here. And I love that show is so big because he thought of DreamWeek and then he didn't even stick to 7 days. He decided DreamWeek should be 12. So that's really good. He thinks very big and he doesn't stop. He just gave me a task for next year. My word is adelante. It is Spanish for forward, for ahead. It's about movement. It's the opposite of going backwards. So for me, it's sort of, I use it a lot. I use it in ending all my emails, especially if I'm asking you to do something for me. or asking you to do something you really don't want to do. And I belong to also a nonprofit organization of Hispanic journalists, and I'm always asking people for something to do and for money. So I think it really means to me is optimism. You know, I was blessed. I feel blessed of having sort of a Pollyannish, just optimism. You really know that I'm an optimist since I work for the Express News. You have to be an eternal optimist to think that this industry that's probably dying or maybe transforming into something else. That's what I really think it's going to be. It's being transformed. You have to be an optimist to work for a newspaper these days. And that's why so many of my colleagues are no longer at the Express News and they're out doing something else. So I was sort of born with this idea that you move forward. I didn't always use the word adelante, and there's other words that I use too. But I was always sort of living adelante. And one of the events that comes to mind is I was a student at Memorial High School on the city's west side, the Edgewood Independent School District. At the time, the poorest school district in the state, who was defended in the Supreme Court because of school finance laws. And here's this girl at Memorial High School in the 70s who watches Love Story with Ryan O'Neal and sees that wonderful college, covered in ivy, and decides, you know what, I'm going to apply to school in the Ivy League. And I didn't even know exactly what that was, but I was going to apply to school there, not even knowing that it's a really hard thing to do. Sometimes not knowing it's hard is better than knowing it's really hard. Sometimes a little ignorance is bliss. And so I applied, got in. And then I really wanted to be a journalist, and I was at a school, unfortunately, that didn't have a journalism department. Not good, Elaine. But I thought, of course I can find a job. As soon as I graduate, I'm going to write a letter to a newspaper and say, I want to come work for you. I'm ready. And then I realized, someone told me, that you really need to major in journalism. And you really need to do, you work for a newspaper every summer before you end up graduating. And I had no idea. But pulled through, adelante, and applied to a little paper, and I got the job. I made $200 a week. It was excellent. And so on and so on. I worked for 6 metropolitan newspapers, and I'm finally home, and wouldn't be anywhere else. And besides Adelante, there's a couple of other phrases that I sort of live. And one of them is, it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. I use that a lot. It actually works a lot more than you think. Try it. There's a phrase that I really like in Spanish that includes adelante, and it is, si trabajamos juntos, saldremos adelante. And that means if we all work together, we'll get ahead, or we'll get through it. And that's my message for you today, no matter what's going on in your life, on Martin Luther King Day, on any other, adelante.